Welcome to the Midweek Mailbag, your Detroit Lions midweek podcast where we answer your Detroit Lions questions submitted on Twitter, submitted via our Pride of Detroit Direct subscription, or that's it. One of those two. My name is Jeremy Reisman. Welcome to the bye week, everybody. Lions are 5-2. Things are good. Although you might not get that sense based on some of the questions we're going to be answering today, although most of them are happy, and we do understand most Lions fans are pretty excited about where the team is at currently. But before we dive into your questions, let me introduce the co-host of the Midweek Mailbag. He is the machine. He is the managing editor of Pride of Detroit, and he is at Erik Schlitt on Twitter. It's Erik Schlitt. Erik, how we doing, buddy?
Hey, we're 5-2. That's how we're doing. Pretty
That's right.
happy going into the break at 5-2. There's some difficult games ahead, but also some games that maybe aren't as difficult as we once thought. So
I just got tipped off, breaking news, that the Lions' next game might have quite a hefty line to it.
Yes. Yeah, I'm already looking ahead. The nice thing is the next, even though the Lions aren't a bye, their next opponent is the Vikings, and the Vikings play this Thursday. So we're going to be we're going to have all the information that we need on the Vikings pretty early in the process. So I'm excited to get to that, but I'm also going to try and maybe we'll get a day here or half a day to relax and enjoy where they're at before jumping ahead to next week.
That's totally fair. It is accountability week here at Pride of Detroit, where we're going to start cashing in on some Movember rewards from last year. I don't know if anything's going to happen this stream. Probably not. But maybe later in the day. We're recording this on Wednesday for the podcast listeners. But if you want to get involved in some early Movember fun, be sure to join us over on our video platforms, YouTube and Twitch. But let's get to the questions. Let's answer some questions. And let's start with some future panic from RCJ1S. Says Am Robertson is going to be an unrestricted free agent after the season. How can we keep him around? He's an absolute dog, and he fits the Lions culture like a glove.
Yeah. The incredible speech that he gave, or press conference that he gave after the win, after another game where he's the last corner standing, and he's basically taking all of these young guys and putting his leadership cap on, and they're showing out and having a tremendous performance. He has this great presser, and we walk out of the press conference doors, and the first thing I said was, man, he's going to make a lot of money. And then immediately put a damper on the whole press conference with that. But that was the first thought I had too. I was like, he's so worth the money. The question is it there? And it's a tough ask, because look, he's only 27, so he's probably got a good contract in him still. We've talked about this in the past, where guys that are like 27, 28, this is the moment in their careers that they really want to cash in. And that's going to be hard to do in Detroit, because they have guys that are 23 and 24 that are going to need big chunks of money. And while I agree that Am is everything that this team is about, the only way you're going to be able to afford him is if you continue to draft guys well, but they have to earn starting roles, right? It's a tough ask to come up with the money for him, and and you absolutely aren't going to ask him to take a big pay cut either. And so it does seem something is going to come to a head. But hey, Brad's figured things out in the past, so I'm not ruling it out. But it sure looks like it's going to be real hard to keep him.
Yeah, I mean, you're already paying DJ Reed, what is it, 12, 14, 16 million a year?
I think it's like 16. Yeah.
It's tough. It's not tough to justify paying two cornerbacks a lot of money, because they're worth it, particularly in this scheme where you need these man coverage guys that are also really good at defending the run, that can, in his case, also slide into nickel. But it's hard to justify it when you're already paying so many other positions. It's hard to find that money, like you said, and it's the reason why you draft Terrion. It's the reason why you draft Ennis. It's the reason why you try to build, you counterbalance these really expensive players with really good young ones. And the Lions have hit an unfortunate snag here with a guy like Ennis, where he's not going to be where they want him to be by year 3 because he's missed so much time with injury. We don't know what the future holds for someone like Terrion, who is yet to like take all the promise that we've seen this offseason into the regular season. And it makes it really tough, because if you decide then, okay, we are going to invest in Amik, we are going to put that much money in the cornerback position, it kind of spells the end for those two guys, at least in terms of what you wanted them to be. You can't make Terrion a starting cornerback when you're paying the other two guys $16 million a year. And how is he going to get better? How is Ennis going to get better? If, like, you know, maybe they get shots because cornerback injuries tend to happen a lot and they'll get up there, but it's just, I'm with you. It's hard to see a future where you can extend Amik, and sometimes you have to just be like, well, this is the price of finding really good players in free agency, finding really good players in the draft. You need the basic point being here is you need Terrion Arnold to become a starting cornerback. You need Ennis Rakestraw to become a reliable backup. That is how this team is going to maintain its success. This is how their window is going to stay open, is if the young players have to start taking over at some point, the way they did 3 years ago when the core of this team was formed.
Yeah, if you're looking, if you want to speculate what Brad Holmes's vision was, he had to look at that cornerback room 2 years ago and say, we're completely rebuilding it. How are we going to rebuild it? We're going to trade a third round pick, and we're going to get Carlton Davis. If he plays well and he's in our price range, we're going to re-sign him. We're going to draft 2 guys, at least one that's going to start on the other side. And then a couple years from now, you know, hopefully he's going to be at a spot where we're comfortable with him. And then maybe we draft, you know, we get lucky with Ennis, and now maybe we can develop him into our nickel in a couple of years. That's why they started playing him at nickel early in his rookie season. And then, you know, you're looking down the road saying, hey, maybe then in 2026, you're drafting another guy to replace, you know, Carlton. And that's probably like what their long-term plan was. And then Carlton prices himself out because he comes here, he plays well, people recognize him, and people want him on his team, so they're going to overpay him. And the same thing's going to be true with Amik, I'm afraid, is that you want to, the days of being able to like hide a guy and like, you know, be able to say, oh, maybe we can get him back, you know, at 10 million. No, people are watching, like people know what his value is. And there's coaches that have been in the room with him that know what his value is. And so, and that are now on other teams, right? And so he's very much put everything he has on display, and he's elevated his play. He's done what his career probably should have been from the jump, and he's going to get paid. And if the Lions can figure it out, that would be unbelievable. If not, he'll go get paid somewhere else, and then this will be another player that went to Detroit on a cheaper contract.
Yep.
And then when they left, they were making a ton more money when they left than when they arrived. And so that tells you to the guys like, you know, like your Thomas Harpers of the world. Hey, are you not getting an opportunity and you fit what we like? Hey, Jamie Robinson, you want to come over off of Kansas City's practice squad? We have a history. We're starting to put together a resume that says if you come here, we'll make you better, and if you leave, you'll get paid. And it's not just players, it's coaches as well. Right?
Yep.
And so Detroit is becoming a destination. And when you are a destination, sometimes you can get these guys, but you've got to scout well, you got to draft well, you got to keep getting the younger guys in order to sustain and keep the guys that you really are part of your core.
The only thing I want to add here is I know there's going to be a contingent of fans that believe the allure of a championship, the allure of playing under Kelvin Shepherd, under Dan Campbell, maybe that shaves a few dollars off of a free agent's price just because they want to stay here. So like maybe a Beak will take a hometown discount, you know, that sort of stuff.
Sure.
It might be true for some players. I would say it's not true for most players because
It's got to be hard.
I mean, you look
Yeah.
at someone like Carlton Davis, who went on a podcast and said Dan Campbell is an outstanding coach. He's the best coach I've ever had. For him to support me, pat me on the back, give me some public praise, both in the media and in the locker room, it's unlike something I've ever done, ever had, ever seen. Presumably the Lions offer him somewhere around 14, 16 million a year, and he finds something that's 18 million a year and goes there.
Yeah.
That's how it works.
Yeah.
That's how it usually works. Might not be the best career move for some players, right? Like Jamal Williams, that he made a mistake. He could be still on the Lions and still thriving with his career. He made a mistake, but I would say in general.
Well, there's a handful of guys like that, like Josh Reynolds, right?
Sure.
Like Josh Reynolds, same thing. Wanted a little bit more money. They said no. He ends up going, and he's last couple of years he's just been kicking around the league. Now he's back with Aaron Glenn.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, there's a gamble. There's a gamble in betting on yourself and trying to find the right fit. But man, it's got to be really challenging to pass on that amount of money. Like
Sure.
you said, there's not many players that it makes sense to do that.
Yep. Next question here comes from Lions Ant 13 on Twitter. Says, does Brad have some tough decisions for waivers, or do some players now find themselves as possible trading pieces with other coming back from injury? So I think this is mostly directed towards the secondary, obviously, with the emergence of 3 or 4 guys who had very low expectations maybe going into that game and came away with huge performances. Like, your Nick Whitesides, I think, is probably maybe at the front of this conversation. I don't know. What do you think? Do you think we're maybe jumping the gun with some of these guys? Do you think if like the Lions, because we're recording this on Wednesday, the Lions have to make one roster spot for Brian Branch today, because he was given a roster exemption while on the reserve suspended list, which currently has the roster now at 54. So someone is going to have to hit waivers. I don't know. Do you think there's like a danger? Let's use Nick Whiteside as an example. If they waive him, do you think they're in danger of losing him?
Yeah, I think with Nick maybe, because he took Igbuka and put him in his pocket and said, "Look, watch, I'm gonna touch the ball more than you."
Yeah,
and that's you do that on Monday night, and that's
people are
gonna
watching.
have people's attention. It's easy he's gonna have an easy contract to claim. You know what I mean? And so if you're hurting in the secondary and the Lions have to move on from him, that's an easy pickup. So yeah, I do think Nick is gonna. You got to be a little bit worried. It's one of the reasons why I think the veterans that are on this roster, that are like the guys that came in, like your Arthur Maulet's or your Quentin Jeffersons, like those guys are a little bit more susceptible.
Yeah,
I think to getting
Jamie, right?
Just because like there's more resume on those guys. There's you've seen what they are. You've seen, do they fit you or do they not? And so it's easier for those guys to go through waivers than it is a guy like a Nick Whiteside and maybe even in Eric Hallett, right? Like if you thought Eric Hallett wasn't part of it, and something will have to give at some point. The hard part is you don't want to get the cart in front of the horse here, because one, you don't know when guys are coming back. Obviously, Branch, like you said, is coming back today. You don't have to make a move for Terrion. You don't have to make a move for Kirby. Those are injuries that'll just return naturally, hopefully by next week.
Yep.
You'll have to make a move when,
Reed.
like when Davenport and Reed are ready to come back, but those might not be for a few weeks.
Yeah.
And then they might get activated and they might stay in the recovery window or the acclimation window for like a couple of weeks. So you may have another month before it's really time to make a hard decision. And then who knows what's going to happen in a month, right? It's possible that like maybe Nick Whiteside gets hurt and then you IR him and you're like, hey, I'm you brought him up as the example. I'm just saying there's on offense, there's not a lot of room. If anything, you're overloaded maybe at running back, but that's a special teams thing that I think they've done purposely. But they have 5 receivers, they almost always have 3 tight ends, they almost always have 8 offensive linemen. That's pretty much what you have to have. Um, so there's not a lot of room on offense, but it seems like on defense there's a little bit more moving parts. Maybe that running back spot's a little overloaded, but there will be difficult decisions, but at the same time, you're going to have time to make them. You're going to have time to see what else happens, what other moves need to be made. So I'm not in the panic of the Lions have too many good players just yet.
Do you think there's, not that these guys did much of anything on Monday, but do you think there's maybe now also a little bit of a danger to losing practice squad guys from poaching? Trey Flowers and Lauren Strickland were the guys that they temporarily have elevated. And like I said, those guys didn't do much on Monday, but
Yeah. Well, Flowers had 3 snaps and they were at safety and as like a spot. Oh no, we've got to get somebody on the field. And
yeah,
Flowers was the next guy up when it came time to actually move Hallett off safety over to nickel. Then they went with Strickland, and that was still only
right,
like 12 or 14 snaps or
right,
something like that. So I don't think they've put enough out there as much as like Hallett, Harper, and
yeah,
Whiteside did. I think those 3 guys really have really put they've done enough and they've been talked about enough that there's an investment in those guys
yeah.
that they're probably going to stick and be high quality reserves moving forward, and who knows, may end up seeing the field again.
Yeah, no, I think specifically with, if you point to some of those guys, I think Thomas Harper is like locked in as safety 3 right now. I think he's
Yes.
been that good, and I think like they claimed that guy, right? They claimed him off waivers. They saw
Yeah.
his value on the 53 from the beginning of the season, and now that he's had a month and a half to acclimate to their system and actually go out there and play well, he's safety 3, and that might be
Yeah.
even true once you get back Avante
Daniel
Maddox.
Thomas.
Daniel Thomas.
Right. Right. Yeah, no, I think Mallet and is maybe looking at Avante, and Avante's like saying, okay, where do I fit now? That he's still that movable chess piece, but with Mallet and Hallett, I'm sorry, with Maddox and Hallett, um, there's you've got 2 very versatile players that can play probably like all 5 spots if we're
Right.
if we're being honest, right?
Right.
In a pinch. And so do you need 2 of those guys? Can you lose one? Like who knows, right?
Yeah.
Or can you risk losing one to
Right.
the practice squad? Like that's a
Mullet,
conversation you have.
to me, Mullet is like the one where it's just like I could see, once Vontae is back, maybe once you get one of your starting corners back and Amit can play a little nickel, like that's when it's like Mullet might be the guy that they want to get back on the practice squad. That might fit a little bit better on the practice squad. And I don't know if there's a market for him yet. I don't think he's played well enough to warrant a claim on waivers or a poaching from the practice squad. But he might still have to play another game or two, and he might prove worthy of that, of staying on the 53, and might take a spot from one of the guys that are currently injured.
Well, like Maddox. Like
Yeah.
if Maddox comes back and Mollette's outplaying him, then like Maddox and then Hallett's outplaying him, that there's some risk here of
Yeah.
like that the injury can cause you some problems here. So like going back to safety, I think even when Daniel Thomas was safety 3. And I think that a lot of that was veteran and a lot of that was he's really good on special teams. But I think Harper's the clear safety 3 now. I agree with you.
Yeah.
And Jamie Robinson, is someone that they signed for a reason. I think it was like, hey, this is our opportunity. We need a little bit more depth. Let's bring this guy. But I think this is a guy that they like and that they have liked. Even when he was in the draft, I looked at him and I'm like, he's a schematic fit for this team that I thought they might target in that draft because he's basically like a Brian Branch Jr., right?
Yeah.
Like he's got a lot of the same ideologies, a lot of the same range, a lot of the same skills, but he's just not as proven. Like Branch is just Branch, right? Like Branch is an all pro. And so, but if you have now Harper and you're developing Robinson and Thomas you want to bring Thomas back, like who comes out where, right? Is it hey, Thomas is back. We need his special teams. We really like you, Jamie Robinson. We really want to develop you, but we can't. We only can only keep 4 safeties, and then you got to if you can prove yourself on special teams, Jamie Robinson, then we'll keep you. But like
Right.
he's gonna have a month to figure that out, right?
Yep.
And so yeah, there's a lot of moving parts in the next 4 weeks that we're going to see specifically on the defensive side of the ball as guys get healthy, young guys continue to develop, and decisions have to be made.
Yeah, and there'll be some big games for those guys. You got what, Minnesota
Yeah.
next. Can have I mean, you're going to go against some good receivers in that game. You go against Washington after that, and then Philly. Those are all three respectable teams.
Is that Dallas? Dallas after that, I think, or something.
Is it
like
just
that,
an NFC East gauntlet like that? Maybe.
I feel like it might not be, but I know.
You got the Packers on Thanksgiving. No, you got the Giants.
Oh,
You got the
Giants.
Giants. Giants,
All right,
then Packers, and
got a couple
Cowboys.
more.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was just trying to look for win. I'm like, all right, where are the guaranteed wins? All right, there we go.
Packers on Thanksgiving. There you go.
Exactly.
Let's move from the boundary defenders to the front defenders. Talk a little defensive line here. Josh_Brown asks, has Al-Qadim Muhammad done enough to keep his starting job once Davenport returns? Seems like a rotational role for Davenport may keep him off on the field long term.
Yes, with the asterisks, okay? Because the asterisk is that even though Al-Qadim Muhammad he played a high amount of snaps last game.
Yeah.
The game before he didn't, and he wasn't the primary guy. And so that role opposite Aiden is there's not really like a clear starter. Sometimes they're going to want the bigger body and they're going to lean more on like the Lacey's and the O'Connors,
Yep.
or even like maybe the Aleems. And then there's going to be other times when you want a guy like Al-Qadim and Davenport can kind of fit into the similar mold. Davenport's a little bit bigger, but yes, Muhammad has done enough that you have to get him on the field. You have to put him on the field in a lot of situations. And so when Davenport comes back, I don't think he's going to be just gifted all of
50
Muhammad's
snaps a game, right?
Right. That's not going to be the way it works. It's going to be, let's rotate these two guys through the 50 snaps that they get, and we'll go in with an idea of like trying to split it, and then we'll just lean on the guy who's doing better. And then there's still going to be games when you want the bigger body and those guys' opportunities go down. But this is a good problem to have, right? Like it's an absolutely good problem because yes, limiting Davenport's snaps is a pretty good thing. It does reduce the risk of injury.
Yep. But
the thing you have to be careful of is that you're not limiting both of them and then not getting the production, right? Like they're going to lean on the guy who's playing a little bit better. The guy who's playing better in game, they're going to lean on a little bit more as well. So, but certainly Al-Qadim has done enough to stay in a big role here.
What's fascinating to me about Al-Qadim Muhammad is that for most of last season and early this season, it felt like he was the guy opposite Aiden, or obviously when Aiden wasn't in here. He was like the edge. He was the edge that we all talked about as the depth behind Marcus Davenport. But for most of the time that Marcus Davenport has been out, he's really been more of an interior guy. He's been a guy that's like their pass rusher on third and fourth and obvious downs, and really they've leaned a lot more on, like you said, the bigger bodies, the Tyler Lacey's on that edge to set the edge to be a little bit better of a run defender. You get Aleem McNeil back, and suddenly Al-Qadim Muhammad is an edge guy again, and creating 9 pressures and doing a hell of a job. And I think some of the reason why his snap count was so high was because the Bucs were in so many passing situations, much like Aleem, right? Aleem was really kind of only supposed to be a pass rusher on Monday night, but they had 54 dropbacks in that game, so produced a lot of opportunities for both those players. And I think just that versatility, that guy that can be a 3-tech or a 5-tech or sometimes even a 7 or 9, you're going to find ways to get him on the field, and you're going to want to. And I know like suddenly we're almost having a conversation that feels like all the mouths to feed on offense. Like, well, you need to get Al-Qadim Muhammad on the field, but you don't want to take Aleem off. You don't want to take Marcus Davenport off. You don't want to take Aiden off. You don't want to take DJ Reader off. You want to like, there's a lot of good depth in there. But I think the fact that Al-Qadim Muhammad can play pretty much anywhere from the 3 out is going to make sure that he is going to get a healthy amount of snaps. Because I mean, even Tyler Lacey is playing some pretty good football, doing what they're asking them to do. Like, he's not a guy that's going to get a ton of pass rush. That's not his game, but he is going to set the edge. He is going to be a good run defender. And then you also have, I keep forgetting his name because he barely plays, but he had 1.5 sacks last game.
Tyrus Wheat.
Tyrus Wheat. Like, it almost feels like you got to get him some extra snaps. I don't know how you do that. You probably won't, to be quite honest.
Yeah, that's hard. He's Aiden's backup.
Right.
If Aiden's not on the field, then he gets his chances, and that's about it. Which is like 4 or 5 snaps a game, and that's probably okay. Yeah. This is the role that we envisioned. For Levi was the 4, but Hassanin.
Oh, right.
Wheat's taken Hassanin's role essentially for us.
Oh, you're saying Wheat,
yeah. But like with Lacey and O'Connor, I do think they're going to be the ones that feel the squeeze, because now with the lean back, you've got 3 defensive tackles that, actually 4 if you count Lopez, that all are going to be fighting for time, and you're going to start to squeeze that. And Davenport can play the 4-eye. And so Davenport can come in and squeeze that as well. So we saw a little bit of a drop off between for Lacey last week. I do think that was very much opponent oriented.
Sure.
But it wouldn't surprise me that when Davenport comes back and now Aleem's back, and we'll see that 4-eye, that pure 4-eye role kind of dissipate, because I think you have better athletes that can play that spot.
Because people in our chat are talking about it, and I've seen some questions too, I want to bring Ahmed Hassanin into the conversation a little bit. Obviously, he's not even a Detroit Lion at this point. He's technically a free agent, and we don't quite know where he's at in terms of his rehab. He did this week post a video of him bench pressing, which seems like a significant step for a guy with a pec injury. And we do know that Brad Holmes has said he will be a Detroit Lion again, so the plan is to sign him back at some point. I don't know what that looks like. I don't know if that's like a practice squad signing or a 53-man signing, but here's what I'll say. I expect 0 snaps from him this year. Like, I expect them to just redshirt at this point. 1, because I think the roster is good enough. 2, because Hassanin is missing all of this time, right? The defense is changing and altering, and the defense that he knew when he left training camp with the injury is not necessarily the one he's going to be coming back to. So whenever he comes back to the team, whether it's right after the bye or November or December, there's going to be a significant amount of time where he just needs to sit and learn. And he was kind of already in a sit and learn position. I don't think he was necessarily going to play any snaps or anything more than a handful of snaps per game, even if he was healthy at this point. So I think expecting any sort of contributions from Hassanin this year is probably a little too optimistic about him.
Right. Look at Wheat so far. He was signed, and it took him 5-6 weeks before he was actually like put out there more than just a couple of snaps. Yeah. Right. And it would be the same type of timeline. I'm kind of leaning practice squad for him as well. Come into the practice squad, take a month or 2 to learn, see where you're at. And, maybe we get a signing at the end of the season. That way we don't, have to do a street, we don't have to like do some weird claim stuff at the end or risk losing him. But I'm along those lines with you as well.
All right, we went a little long in those first 3 questions, so we'll take a break here. We got a whole bunch more questions on the other end, including some thoughts on the offense struggling out of the gate, some things, some Taylor Decker concerns a little bit, and an evaluation, a mid-season evaluation of Brad Holmes. So we'll take on all that next right here on the Midweek Mailbag. We'll be right back. All right, we're on break, which means we can answer some of your guys' questions. Only have a handful of alerts here, so we can get right into some of your guys' questions. If you have them, feel free to throw them in the chat. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, somebody asked about Wingo in the conversation we were just having. The vibes I'm getting on Wingo, James Houston rookie season vibes. Everybody in the locker room is talking about how good he is, how good he is. Yet the coaching staff is like, no, he's not ready yet.
Yeah.
We're working on him. He's getting there.
Yeah.
But everybody in the locker room is like, oh my gosh, he's just killing us. He's doing this. He's so hard with this and this and this. I get a weird feeling on Wingo that he's going to be a guy that they elevate on Thanksgiving for whatever reason. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, look,
You think so?
here he is. I do.
I'm getting the opposite. I'm getting James Houston year 2 vibes.
Oh, all right. I'm getting year 1. So that's wildly different person.
It really is. I feel like Dan Campbell is a week or 2 away from giving him in the room designation.
No. Well, I thought he kind of already gave him an in the room designation.
That's what I'm saying. Like, that's the vibes I got from last week's press conference on him.
The players just talk the way they talk about
They do.
him.
Yes. You're not wrong.
It just smells like he's a powder keg waiting to take that last final step.
Yeah.
And when he takes that last final step where the coaches are like, okay, then he'll get his shot, and then it'll be like, oh, where's he been all season?
Right.
Well, he's trying to get that last step right now. And it takes.
I hope you're right.
Not there yet.
Yeah. It's also just a really crowded room right now.
Yes, massively crowded. Like he doesn't just have to jump like Quentin Jefferson. He has to jump Lacey and O'Connor and then that's just to get like on the field for like 5 to 10 snaps.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Then after that, you're talking like Lopez. You're trying to jump then, and then
Lopez only had 18 snaps or 11 snaps. I think Lopez only had 11 snaps. But again,
that may be his role moving forward, though. But
Yeah.
that's okay. They went away from
didn't
the
run
nose, and they used a lot of
right,
But
because the Bucks were throwing the ball a butt ton.
yep.
RL4059, they give it the follow. D-Lines for Life, 20 months subscribe to the channel, says Dan Campbell is an absolute legend in the making. One day he will have a statue. He is well on their way. One of the more disturbing Twitch followers we've ever gotten watches pregnant streamers.
Like for safety reasons, like to make sure they're okay. Wait, do you need to tell me something?
It's why I was moody on Monday, Kyle G, 9 months subscribed to the channel. Tiny Bob, 4 months, says, never know what to do with myself when there's a bye week. Sad face. Go Loins. FTP. Relax. That's what I'm doing. Trying to, at least. Detroit, 74 months subscribed on the channel. I can't even do the math at that point. Like, we're getting close to... That's over 6 years?
Over.
Yeah, 72 is 6 years. That's wild.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for the support, Detroit. Appreciate you. All right, we're caught up, so let me get to... I scrolled up found some questions I wanted answered, and now I lost them. Wingo. Oh, Mighty Tuati, important question. What's the donation level for eggs on Erik?
Oh God, I don't like $1 million.
500?
That's how much it would cost.
Do we raise it back to do we have to? I mean, it's not only you don't want to do it anymore, but it's also egg inflation now. So we have to figure that in.
I can't afford it. I get a mortgage on my house. You gonna give him a second mortgage? Yeah. Eggs.
We'll see.
The problem that the last 2 years have shown me with the eggs is that I don't know how to properly clean them up effectively. I have tried multiple strategies on how to clean up. I put the tarp out, and then we're doing it at a bad time of the year when I've already shut my outside spigots off and stuff like that, right? And so I can't just go out and spray it off. But last time I I just put it all in the tarp and then pulled the tarp up, and then I just was like, I'm just throwing the tarp away. It was just, it was already tattered and everything. And I'm like, but then I put it in a garbage bag and I put it outside, and then I put it in one of my compost containers outside, and actually then I forgot about it. And then when I went, to do my spring cleanup, and I was like, oh yeah, it's been there for like 3 months. I took the bag out, and it leaked. And so all the eggs leaked into the compost container. And then the fun part is that compost container actually is one of my older ones that I had to drag down the ground long enough that it had a hole in the bottom. So then it leaked into the next one. And eggs are horrible cleanup things as well. And then again,
And they smell.
put the egg inflation cost on that as well. It's just like, man, I don't know. Maybe we'll do something else where the kids will, we'll get my kids involved in something, but
Okay.
it's the eggs are, they've just been a nightmare. Water balloons would be fine. I just don't think people would think it's enough.
It's not quite as satisfying as an egg breaking.
I like to me again. Everything costs so much money food wise nowadays.
Yeah.
I like the idea of something that is like not expensive but still, not fun. Like your ice bath last
Sure.
year. Like,
Yeah.
that wasn't expensive, but that was entertaining.
Yeah. You got to come up with something. It's not easy.
There you go. Rocks are cheap. There you go. I like that idea. Lots of rocks around my house.
Are we stoning people again? Are we going back to that?
The problem is that Georgia has ridiculous accuracy right now. And I'm a little worried about her.
Waterboarding. Someone had asked favorite Halloween candy. Snickers still
We've
reigns
done this
supreme.
before.
Yeah.
I always get so I live on a like a side street, like not one of the main arteries, right in my neighborhood. So I only get 50 kids maybe that come to my house on Halloween, right? It's very low because they all stick on the main arteries. It's faster and everything, right? So, Laura sent me the story yesterday to buy Halloween candy, and I came back with like all the Halloween candy like that I like, and and she was like, "What kind of Halloween candy is this for the kids?" And I'm like, "Well, we already had a couple of things. We already had enough to sustain, so." I bought
Bunch of
Twix
Werthers.
and Milky Way. No, I bought Twix, Milky Way, 100 grand, Paydays, Almond Joys, and I already had some Snickers and stuff. But like, Laura was so mad. She was like, "What are you doing? You were supposed to go buy Halloween candy for the kids." We got those nerd clusters. We got we already got the like gummy bear, the kind that there's a lot of good stuff,
Dude.
And no one comes here.
I was a late arrival to the Nerds gummy clusters. I thought that was just like a novelty or something. But man, they're addictive.
I found like them on sale, like a pretty good sized pack that I could give to my children, and I bought like a boatload of them, and I have them like shoved up like in a little box in my closet where the kids like can't reach. And I'm like, man, I don't really want to give those to the kids this week. Maybe I'll just grab one of those myself. No, they're good. They're good rewards. Good rewards.
What do you think the issue is with Montgomery? Seems the last two games he hasn't been up to his standards. Good run defenses.
Yeah, and the style of how they use him. Like they use him to try and beat up the defenses. And he's been going against I haven't looked these numbers up to be 100% certain.
Yeah.
But against Tampa, he was like 10 guys in a box. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like when he was running the ball late, like most of his runs were in the last two series. And in the last two series against Tampa Bay, the Lions were just interested in using Tampa Bay's timeouts and running the clock. And they had like 10 guys in the box. It was ridiculous. So,
I want to look at rank. Does it? I thought
there's a way to look it up. I think in
it was week 6. Is that right?
last week was 7.
Last week was 7. Oh yeah. You're right. Jahmyr Gibbs faces stack box 52% of the time. David Montgomery, where are you, buddy?
Are you in NFL Pro?
I am.
Okay.
84.6% of the time.
See, that's hard sledding when that's what's in front of you, and it's not just like 8. It's not like just like 7 or 8 guys. It's like it was like 10.
Are you sure? It's not just 6 or 7 guys. It's 8 or more. Yeah. Out of qualifying rushers in week 7, no one faced a higher percentage of stack boxes than Dave Montgomery. The next closest was Zach Charbonnet, who had 66.7. So 2/3 of the time versus almost 8.5 out of 10 times.
Tough sledding. He's been asked to do a lot of hard stuff.
And listen, I don't think the offensive line has been playing its best either. They've had some tough tasks like Vita Vea this week, Chris Jones the week before. So it's tough. It's tough sledding right now in the middle. Because even Jahmyr Gibbs' runs, how many of his runs are succeeding up the middle? Not a ton. I mean, obviously
one big one.
The one very big one.
Oh, they ran the duo that I was calling for.
They sure did.
I was like, run that duo right out, and then the goal line one too was also a duo. The one where Gibbs scores at the end.
For the entire season, Dave Montgomery has faced the highest percentage of stacked boxes. 47.4%.
Average defenders in the box, or the average defenders faced for Montgomery is 8.03.
Ooh, where do you see that stat?
Sumner.
Oh, Sumer? There's no end.
Sumer. What? Yeah, sorry. Sumer.
Do you want to try to guess the running back who has faced the second amount of most stacked boxes?
Oh gosh,
it's a hard question to answer, but it's one of the more successful power backs this season. Will be your hint. Henry's a good guess. He's 4th.
Is it Charbonnet? Because I mean, you mentioned
he's
him
3rd.
Before, so.
Oops.
Is it Quinton Judkins?
It sure is. It sure is. 46.8% to Demo's 47.4%. So pretty darn close. There are only 4 players who have seen. I'm sorry, really only 3, because for some reason Jalen Hurts is on this list as well. So only 3 running backs who have faced more than 40% stacked boxes. Dave Montgomery, Quinton Judkins, and Zach Charbonnet.
According to Sumner, average box defenders faced Sumer. Why did I do it again? According to Sumer, average box defenders faced Zach Charbonnet 8.4, Kareem Hunt 8.2, Derrick Henry 8.1, Judkins 8.05, Montgomery 8.03. So he's Montgomery's top 5 and consistently facing huge boxes.
Yeah. Some interesting stats there.
You look at some of the guys that are like leading, like who are some of the leaders? Like Saquon, 7.8. Jonathan Taylor, 7.8. Right?
Yeah, Gibbs is all the way down to 27.9% stack boxes for him, which makes sense.
7.6 on average.
Yeah. He'll beat you on the outside if you...
His EPA per rush, though, is 0.12 now.
0.05, according to NFL Pro.
See? That's why this EPA's...
That's why you got to source your stats, everybody. Because every stat different depending on which...
Especially EPA.
EPA,
yeah. Especially EPA.
Which is weird, because EPA feels like it should be pretty uniform, but...
I stick with just next gen. because it's NFL based
That's fair.
for that EPA stuff. And the Sumer stuff, though, they can get you a little bit more in the weeds on some stuff like these
Yeah.
average box defenders face. Like that's a stat you can't find on next gen.
Monty's caught a couple big passes so far. Maybe there
Maybe a
needs to be a
couple
higher.
last game.
Maybe there needs to be a higher percentage when he's out there. Maybe the lines are a little bit too predictable if he's facing so many stacked boxes.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's also situation. Like they like to use him late in the game. And that's if you have the lead and that's the guy you're turning to, then teams are loading up against him.
Uncle T Rav 45 bits says, What are your first half of the year grades for Tyleek and Tate?
Oh, I don't know. I don't. I'm very bad at grading.
You hate it.
That's why you do it on a weekly basis and not me.
I kind of feel like C+ is around, and I know that sounds bad. People hear C and they're like, "What's wrong with him?" Like, no, that's above average. C+ is like slightly above average. So my expectations for both of those players, I'm saying, slightly better.
This is like EPA. It's important to understand the source of your data.
Right.
Most people that grade nowadays grade on a scale of A to C, like A to C or F.
Yes.
Like
yes.
but
correct.
You actually use all 5 letters.
I do.
So to put your grade in context of someone like let's say post-draft evaluators, you would basically be giving them a B+, because that's right, like because that's their scale, A to C.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's the hard part about grades too, right?
Yes.
Like
just it's like if I can explain myself, PFF Raceman over here. I think when it comes to Tate, the stuff that you do, he'd be good out of the box at. He's pretty good out of the box. Like, once he gets his hands on you in the run game, you're done. He's going to move you out of the spot that you need and get his assignment done. There's some mental stuff that he still needs to process through. There's still a little bit of chemistry issues sometimes with the guys
which
on both
one are you
sides.
talking about, Tate?
Tate Ratledge, yeah.
Tate, yep.
Yeah. Okay. And then pass pro, I don't think is where it needs to be at all right now. I think that's it. I think that's a current weakness on the Lions roster. And again, he's gone through a little bit of a gauntlet of really good pass rushers from the interior so far.
Yeah, Vay right in front of him the whole game.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's hard.
Yeah. And so, I think he's proven he can be a starter in this league, which is all like, that's good enough for a second round pick. But he's a significant downgrade from what they had last year at that position. Well, he's not Kevin Zeitler. And it's had an impact on games, right? The Lions' rushing attack is not as good as it was in previous years so far. The pass protection is not where it's been in previous years, particularly in the interior. And so I expect more of him eventually.
Well, like most run guys, most young guys, they're better they're better moving forward than back, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, like, is he this out of the park draft pick that maybe we're sometimes used to seeing from Brad Holmes as early as the first month of this guy's career? No, he's not that. But I have zero doubts that he's going to turn into a good starter on this football team. And Tyleek's a tough one because, one, he does like so much dirty work that is underappreciated and not
bad
flashy.
grades, bad stats, doesn't show up in the box score.
Right. And he's also losing snaps, right? And
now, and he actually outsnapped Reader this week.
Did he really?
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah. That did not seem like it when I just watched, because my rewatch has only been limited to Aleem McNeil snaps, and so maybe they just paired Aleem with DJ more often than they paired him with Tyleek. But that's surprising to me. Either way, I I think Tyreek is doing his job well enough, but he's not a 3-down player yet.
No, not yet. Next year he will be.
Yeah. So, I don't know. Like, I think if I had to pick which one is doing a little bit better, I'd probably pick Tyreek, but not by a lot. Well, like I said, like they're both like, okay, yeah, I see it. I see why they drafted those players. They're good at certain things.
When you draft trenches, with your first 2 picks, like the return isn't going to be immediately felt or even seen, like when you draft corners or receivers, right? Or running backs or whoever, right? Like look at even like it takes time for these guys to really turn into the studs that we love nowadays, right? Like Jack Campbell took a couple of years before he became arguably a top 5 linebacker in the league right now. Like he's playing incredible. Jahmyr Gibbs was fantastic out the gate, but he's in the is he the best running back in the league conversation now, and he wasn't his first, after his first year.
That's because they didn't use him.
Wow.
Why are they giving all these carries to David Montgomery?
Branch and Laporta, I think both exceeded their expectations in year 1.
No question.
And Laporta has balanced himself out to where I think expectations really should be. Whereas I think Branch just keeps getting better and better and better and better and better and better. But it a year from now, we're going to be a lot happier with where they're at. And, by year 3, we're probably going to be like, holy cow, this is, look at what these guys have turned into.
And to be fair, like, these guys are ahead of them last year's first and second round picks.
Yeah.
No offense to Arnold and Rakestraw, and it's
Ennis,
certainly not Ennis's fault necessarily, but they've already gotten more out of those 2 guys.
Yeah. Like, if I had to lean one way or another, I would lean towards Tate a little bit more. More's being asked of him right now, in my opinion. Yeah. Whereas Tyreek is kind of being brought along. He's being put in situations that are better for him. Whereas Tate kind of has to live no matter what. And like you said, there have been some pretty rough interior guys that they've had to face. Cleveland, Baltimore, now the Bucs, like those interior, and even Green Bay, like those interior guys are all. They're really good. They have some really good linemen on those defenses.
5 bits from McVeigh Rob just says eggflation. Yeah. Thank you. We'll use those 5 cents to help counterbalance the rising price in eggs. Any other questions before we jump back into the show? We can jump back right in because we do want to leave time for some film breakdown stuff afterwards. And if you guys have ideas for film breakdown stuff, plenty, I imagine, that you guys want to see, whether it's the secondary, whether it's Jamo or Aline.
I want personally want to look at both of Jameer's touchdowns.
Okay.
Because both of them, the blocking was awesome.
Even though the second touchdown was more individual effort, or maybe that was the first touchdown. I don't remember.
The blocking was fantastic. The 78-yard one, or 70, whatever it was, and then the other one was just at the goal line. But both of them, there were key blocks from Panay and Tate that opened things up for him.
Yeah. All right.
Ooh, Nick Whiteside.
Nick Whiteside's a good idea.
We'll do the pass breakups, or maybe just the coverage routes. Yeah, the very obvious ones.
I like that. Oh, ask ChatGPT. Yeah, what did you want me to ask ChatGPT? That was a Madi Tuhati redeemed a ask ChatGPT thing. What was your? What is your request? What can you throw at someone as a prank that is cleaner than eggs? This is what AI is for right here.
I got an AI email today, the AI description tried to tell me what it was, and it was like your daughter was tardy for class, and I was like, oh really? And then I like opened it up, and it was like just a generic email about kids in general, and I'm like, AI, you're lying to me. She wasn't late. This is just a general email. Don't lie to me, AI. I don't trust it.
This is not
Whoopee
going to help.
cushions.
No throwing. They do not advocate throwing things that can injure or scare people.
Oh, yeah.
If you want to toss something, keep it safe and consensual. Very soft plush toys. Alternatively, use small confetti popper.
I got about 100 stuffed animals in my playroom that the kids could throw at me, but that's not going to do a whole lot. I don't think that'll get the impact people are looking for.
Some of these, like the whole like wrap a desk or someone's like, I mean, it's a good prank, but it takes way too much work. I don't understand the time
And money.
people have.
Everything costs money. Like so much money nowadays.
I like this one. Autocorrect joke. If you have permission to use their device for a second, use an autocorrect to replace one innocuous word with something goofy. Keep it harmless. Glitter. How about glitter? That's an easy cleanup, right?
That is the worst idea ever.
I just killed a polar bear for this. Hey, blame Marty, not me. What's something soft to throw at a
Wall?
Wall? Sure.
Again, I don't know if soft is going to get... Foam ball.
Yeah, I don't know.
This isn't helping.
Yeah, sorry. ChatGPT once again proving it's worthless. Roger Kowalk, thank you for the sub over on YouTube. Appreciate you stopping by. What's wrong with Goff? It seems like he's underthrowing a lot the last few games, specifically to Jamo. We're going to talk a little bit about the offensive struggles in the second half, but I don't know. I don't think there's too much going on with Goff. Like there was a lot of pressure last week on Monday. I think he was dealing with a lot of pressure, and we all know that like once he starts feeling it consistently, he gets a little jittery. He gets a little rushed. I think there's one place specifically where I'm like, he scrambled to his right and then he could have just stood there for a little while. And I felt like he sensed pressure that wasn't there. The interception, I don't know what he was doing. Like, honestly, that felt like I'm locked in on Amon-Ra.
That felt like a Dan Campbell second challenge thought process.
Yeah. Kudos for him to be able to joke at his own expense.
Yeah, he's very good at self-deprecating humor.
Are you buying the alternate theory that he just wanted an extended timeout?
I don't know. I can see the logic behind it because he did say he was grasping at straws.
Right.
And so the by saying grasping at straws, it made me think maybe the play was moving too fast and he wanted to slow things down. And so he just was like, oh, this is how I'll stop it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of my guess is it's possible if like, so maybe you can connect those dots that way, but I don't know.
For me, like, it almost felt like there was so much going on such a simple play that he was just like, no, that can't be right. How do they gain 2 yards on this play? That can't be right. Let me just pull the refs aside, and I'm going to do that by throwing a red flag. Mm-hmm. And then like if you watch the broadcast, because I did after that press conference, and it's just, to me, the vibes I got, and I mentioned this last night, the vibes I got from Dan Campbell was like, they approach him. He's like, "What are you challenging? Are you challenging this?" And he's like, yeah. Yep, that's what we're challenging. Yep, what you just said. That's what we'll challenge." But like it does seem like an unfair play, right? You strip sack the quarterback, the ball shoots forward, you gain 2 yards on a play you have no business gaining yards on. And in a lot of ways, like the Cade Otton play kind of had the same feel to it, in that like if that was a fumble, it went forward and then it was recovered by the Bucs. But because it's 4th down, there's actually a rule that you can't advance a fumble unless you're the one that recovers your own fumble. In this case, it wasn't 4th down, so Baker's fumble goes forward and is recovered, I think, by Tristan Wirfs. You can advance that fumble, which is, it feels silly. It almost feels like,
yeah, but that's because back in the day when teams were like, "Oh no, I'm going to be short," and the players were purposefully fumbling the ball forward because there's no harm in losing the ball when the game's about to be over anyways. So.
But to me, it feels like there should not be an advancement of a fumble at all, unless you pick it up and run. Sure. Like if you pick up a fumble and literally physically advance it, it doesn't feel like you should gain the yard if you just fumble on a ball that like just so happens to be pushed forward. But I don't know, like, I'm trying to think of the unintended consequences if you made that rule.
You lose some offensive lineman touchdowns on, where they pick the ball up and land on it. I don't know. We've seen that happen. It happened. There was a play like that happened. Was it last week or a week ago, where a guy got hit like at the 5. And the ball went into the end zone, and then his teammate fell on it in the end zone and got the touchdown for it.
Yeah.
That shouldn't. I can't remember.
Could put it back at the 5. Unless, but then like it's like, okay, it's at the 1, and you scoop it up and walk 1 step forward. That counts? I don't know. Yeah. It's just a silly little loophole, I guess.
I'm looking for that Goff stat that talks about him being under pressure, because I thought it was interesting. Because we all know how well he plays against the blitz.
Yeah.
But
while you look for that though.
No, I got it. Okay. Go ahead.
No, this is a new alert, but I don't want to go off the topic if you have your answer.
Well, I don't even know. Maybe I should save it for when we talk about the offense. Are we going to get a question about Goff?
I don't remember.
And pressure? Or?
I don't think so.
All right. If you blitz Goff and the Lions pick the blitz up, he's lethal.
You're done.
Like lethal. He kills you every time. Passer rating 137.1 if the Lions pick up the blitz. 77% completion percentage when they pick up the blitz. If they don't pick up the blitz and they get pressure, his passer rating almost cuts in half. Yeah. It goes down to like 72%. Or his pass rating is at 72 instead of 137. His completion percentage goes from 77% completion percentage to like 40% completion percentage. So like blitzing Goff is a risk reward in the fact that if you miss, you're done. If you get home, then you put him slightly under his average, but he's still somewhat successful. He's just not as successful. So
yeah,
I was hoping that Next Gen would have some insights on how the Bucs, blitzed him and stuff, but that wasn't there. But it is interesting to see, like, it's kind of an all or nothing play if you decide to blitz Goff, unless you're creative. And like, what's interesting from a analyst perspective here is that you're going to face back-to-back teams with the bye in the middle that are two of the most creative blitzing teams in the NFL, but they blitz wildly different from one another, right?
Yeah.
And so I this Bucks style of blitzing has given Goff troubles in the past, and so I wasn't surprised that he struggled a little bit. But the Vikings blitz stuff, I'm a little less worried about that because again, we've kind of seen it, and we've kind of seen him do well against it.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead. What was your alert?
No, there's just another alert. Guys named 14 months subscribed on Twitch says you'll never convince me Dan Campbell didn't call that challenge to get some form of an extended timeout. Hutch wasn't on the field before a challenge, then was on after. Maybe. I mean, it was right in the middle of that crazy 18 play drive.
Were they rushing to the line
No.
were they no huddling or anything? No.
Nope.
Okay.
Nope. There was a lot of time in between the end of that play and the throwing of the challenge flag. That was weird. Sorry, HSW. What are you doing sleeping in the middle of the day? Unless it's not the middle of the day where you are. Sorry. It's my fault. I should have woken you up. That's my fault. We'll talk a little Jamo once we get the second segment started, Bobby. And I think we should do that now. That's kind of my thinking. Like, if you really needed it, just call a timeout. But I understand a review is potentially longer.
Yeah, and it costs you the same thing, and right. You end up in the same result, right?
The downside there is if you, I forgot, did they change the rule now? Do you have to get both? Do you still have to get both challenges right, or if you only get one, do you get a third?
I don't remember if that rule passed.
I can't remember if it passed either, because that would be the downside, right? Is you wouldn't be able to challenge anything the remainder of the game if you get it wrong. Look that up real quick. NFL challenges rule change. I feel like it didn't pass. It did pass? Whatever. I'm just going to assume you're right. It's so hard to find stupid rule changes. Oh, that was 2 years ago. That was 2024. Coaches can challenge a third ruling following one successful challenge. Got it. Okay.
Oh.
It passed.
Perfect. Can't take them with you.
Can't take them with you. Okay. All right, sorry. Got distracted. Let's go back to the show. Welcome back to the Midweek Mailbag here on the Pride of Detroit YouTube, Twitch, and podcasting platforms. Let's go to our next question here from Russian Bot, who asks, why has seemingly every offseason narrative been totally false? Jamo next step, Terry on CB1, Gibbs out wide / 2 running back sets being a few examples.
Well, it's a good question. Terrion was certainly playing better in camp than in the regular season. And so, when you get the refs involved, it certainly changes perspectives, right?
A little bit, yeah.
Because, you can, I don't want to be apologetic for him or anything, but, I certainly think he gets a lot of blame that is warranted and maybe even more blame that isn't warranted. You know, there often becomes a guy who, becomes the guy who gets the finger pointed at him, for all the bad things that are happening, and I feel like Terrion gets that a lot. But Reed has certainly stepped up. In camp, it took him a little bit where I think Terrion was maybe ahead of him early, and then since then, Reed's veteran presence and experience has certainly played itself out, and he's played a lot better during the regular season. And so, that's one with the
Yeah.
two wide receiver sets, or I'm sorry, two running back sets. That was something that they showed a lot more in camp than they've showed in the regular season. That seems like a preference thing. There's no real that I mean the volume at which they used it in camp, everyone thought that it was going to be part of the mix. As far as Jamo, I do think he has taken a step. It's just probably not what people are hoping for. For people hoping he's going to turn into like a Jamar Chase type of guy, that's not his role. Like his role is to occupy defenders, to keep eyes on him so that they don't, so that you can get Amon Ra in single coverage, so that you can get Laporta in single coverage, so that you can leak your running backs into the flat. Um, his routes have been better, his blocking has been great, but he's never going to be wide receiver one in this style of scheme. It's not really what his role is. So I do think he's gotten better. I think the perception on how people thought he was going to get better um, is a little bit skewed because of what is a traditional wide receiver. At the same time, I will say it does seem like him and Goff haven't always been on the same page. Some of that comes with a guy who's a deep threat. When you make the farther you're throwing the ball down the field, the more likely you have of making a mistake. And so, but he's not been part of the game plans on some weeks. He's not been on the same page with Goff on some weeks, and so some of that is warranted. That like he hasn't been consistently improved, but I do think he has improved as a player, just not in the ways that many people thought it was going to be.
I'm going to put a pin in the JMO stuff for a minute here because we're going to talk about him
Yep.
some more in a second. I want to go back to just like training camp not being a reality, the perception of training camp maybe not being the reality. I think part of that is one, the team is still figuring itself out at that point. They're still seeing if these two running back sets that we saw all the time are actually going to work. And I think maybe they found out some of that stuff wasn't going to work. We hear Dan Campbell talk about it all the years. Like you don't really know who you are as a team until week 6, week 7, week 5, week whatever. Like it's gonna. I just did a 6-7 thing. But you're still figuring out your identity even at this point in the season. And so I think you're playing around with stuff in training camp that might not be part of a core of who you are come the regular season. I also think when it comes to guys like Terrion, we got a small sample size. I think if he comes back and plays the majority of the rest of the season, I think you are going to see some of the improvements, some of the good play that we saw. And then I also think there are a lot of narratives during training camp that did come out to be true. We thought the defense looked better than the offense, and guess what? The defense is ranked number 1 in DVOA right now, and the offense is like 5th. The defensive improvements that we saw were real. They were there. They happened. The Miami Dolphins we saw in training camp. A lot of warning signs there that turned out to be pretty true. Mm-hmm. But yeah, there are certainly some things that didn't match what we ended up seeing, and part of that is you're flooded with a bunch of information during training camp, and we put out a lot of things. Some might be true one day, but some might not be true the other day.
I also want to add in the fact that the nature of training camp is we as in the media are trying to put new information out to fans as opposed to regurgitating things that you already know.
Yeah.
The reason we don't write Penei Sewell is the best offensive tackle in the NFL every single day is because it's kind of been a fact, right? We don't write as much about things that we know. We write about What's new? What's changed? How are things a little bit different? And one of the more notable things was we saw some of the storylines that we saw consistently during training camp were the things that were
Yep.
just mentioned. I also, whenever we talk about training camp, like to bring up this very quick story about how I feel like I've learned this is the lesson, the biggest lesson I ever learned about training camp reporting came under the Matt Patricia era. When Matt Patricia was dipping blitzes and using linebackers as decoys, replacement
Tavai.
blitzing, and the use of Jelani Tavai was unbelievable in training camp. He was dipping, he was looping him around and bringing him on A gap rushes, and there was all kinds of like incredible stuff. My first published article ever, like it published like in the paper article, was on how Tavai was being used in a way that would elevate the defense. And then the regular season comes around and he used none of it. And Tavai was never used in that way ever again. But I saw it in training camp over and over, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be exactly what they need to elevate this defense. And then it just was gone. And so like sometimes in training camp, you see one thing that's happening and you report on it, and then it just doesn't
They change
fit
course.
what they want to do during the regular season.
Yeah. All right, let's get a little bit more into the Jamo stuff. Jamie W., one of our Pride of Detroit Direct subscribers, says, why are we not being more deliberate about design plays for Jamo? I get he's a team guy, but how about a couple sweeps per game, lining him in the backfield as they did with Amon-Ra? I just think even for his own confidence, we should be manufacturing more touches for him.
Was it Cincy that they were forcing the ball to him? And it just wasn't
Nothing
working.
was working. Yeah.
Yeah, right. And then we were saying, man, stop forcing the ball. Or it might have been Cleveland. I forget which one of the
Yeah, I think it's Cleveland.
one of those. Yeah. Yeah, because it was at home. And so you can't force it even if you want to try and get him the ball. That was an example of where it was a game plan to get him more involved, but it wasn't working and they stayed at it, and then they got criticized for staying at it, right? So like
Right.
it has to organically help itself out. And I know like people are going to say, well, he's just a decoy right now. Here's the thing. He's not a decoy. Defenses today in the NFL are so scared of the deep threat that they dedicate teams to taking it away. So one of the reasons that they haven't been able to connect with Jamo is because he's drawing double coverage. So many defenses right now in the NFL have adapted the style of defense that I'm not going to get beat deep. I'm just going to run these cloud shells over the top, or I'm going to run these things where I'm dropping my safeties really far, or I'm running my corners back really far because I don't want to get exposed to the big play. And that has limited Jamo. Like he's kind of been taken away. And that's why it opens up things for some of the other guys underneath, because teams are going to take their chances with their kind of bend don't break defenses instead of just getting gashed on one play.
I guess part of the thing that still doesn't explain to me is the increased route tree from Jamo. We were told, and we saw, he's not just
we saw it
running a 9 anymore. He's capable of running comebacks. He's capable of running. We always knew he's capable of running crossers, right? That's something that makes him extremely dangerous because then he turns it upfield and he's gone. And it feels like that's been lacking to me. Like they
had an opportunity this week and didn't do it.
Well, they completed it, and then Jamo got called for a push off that wasn't there.
I agree with that.
But I think I wish there was a little bit more of that, a little bit more of actually living up to, hey, Jamo now is this guy that can stop on a dime. This is a guy that can double move. This is a guy that you don't have to just run deep posts and 9s and whatever. And I really think they could have used him in this past game, because I feel like they made a concerted effort to take Amon-Ra out of that game in the second half. And they did take Amon-Ra out of that game in the second half, and they didn't have an answer in the passing game. They didn't have a single answer, and I feel like Jamo should be one of those guys that you lean on when they are double bracketing, whatever, to Amon-Ra. Like, really their only answer was, and it worked, when it was Jahmyr Gibbs in the passing game. But again, that's only three. Right. That's only 3 catches the entire game. Where was Sam Laporta? Where was Jamo?
Well, that's who I kept calling for, right? Yes. Probably annoyingly so, because I kept saying this sets up for Laporta. This sets up for Laporta, but they kept keeping their tight ends in because of the blitz, right? And so I'm with you on the fact that should have set up an opportunity for Jamo, because running Jamo down a slot and then having him post in right behind those linebackers who were struggling in coverage, that would have been there. Like that was there in previous weeks when studying Tampa Bay. That should have been there, and that was that would have been an ideal route for Laporta. But if you're keeping Laporta in, trying to get Jamo in that, because if you get Jamo on a post and they run a cover 2 and he catches the post over the middle and he can split those safeties and house it, right? So I thought there was an opportunity last game. And look, you're going to see defenses like this, right? You're going to see defenses that are going to run these zones, these clouds, these Fangio cover shells, right? And because so many defenses run these Fangio shells now. So you can beat them with a guy like Jamo if you run the right routes with him. And so far, they've been using him to, the opportunities just haven't opened up. And whether that's defenses, leaning towards him, or Goff not having enough time, or, whatever the case, it hasn't evolved itself or presented itself just yet.
Right. Because I think even some of the issue here is that, yes, defenses play more 2 shells. Yes, all of that is true, but all that has been true. And Jamo's not just not producing or not improving his production. He's not hitting last year's production. And small sample size again. We're 7 games in, not even halfway point in the season yet, and maybe things change. Maybe teams start to play the lines a little bit differently, saying, well, Jamo's not doing anything. Maybe let's cover the middle of the field more and let him run whatever he wants on the boundaries. We're not scared. We don't think Jared Goff can hurt us on the boundaries. Maybe they play him a little differently. But production is down significantly year to year for Jamo, right? I think he's averaging like 20 yards less per game through 7 games. And so I don't think it's ridiculous for people to expect more, even if we're talking about the 3rd ranked offense in terms of scoring, even if we're talking about Amon-Ra still having a career year and Jahmyr having a career year potentially. You paid this guy a lot of money. You did. And I don't think they did that just so that they can have a field stretcher, just so that they can have a downfield blocker.
I do really think defenses are trying to scheme against him beating them. I really think but I'm with you in the fact that let's use this bye week, start being creative, find ways to use him in ways that you're using Khalif Raymond. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right. Like take your concepts for Khalif and just give him to Jamo and try and get him more involved. One more thing, and then I'll be done with this. There's also something to be said to the fact that he's such a good blocker that you often want him blocking out in front of routes instead of being the guy who's running behind someone else blocking. So like I know people have suggested like end arounds and screens to Jamo and stuff like that. A lot of times you want Jamo blocking because he's such a good blocker. You want him trying to block the corner out of bounds as opposed to asking maybe to Slaw to be the blocker who's maybe just not as experienced in I mean, just another food for thought.
All right, let's move to a question asked by both Aaron H. and Nick V., our Pride of Detroit Direct subscribers. Talking a little about Taylor Decker, says in Dan's press conference on Tuesday, he didn't sound very confident in the likelihood of Decker making it through the rest of the season. Do the Lions need to target a capable backup offensive tackle before the trade deadline, or are they comfortable rolling with Skipper? And I wanted to add on top of this something published from Dave Burkett of the Detroit Free Press, who talked to Decker after the game, who asked him what Monday's game meant for his availability the rest of the season. This is what Taylor Decker said, quote, "I don't know. I'm just frustrated right now, so I don't want to make a statement on that." That is not, I agree that sounds a little dark, a little, I don't know. Seems like maybe the 2 weeks or 3 weeks that he got off, whatever it's been, maybe not enough, or he re-aggravated it. I know it was noticeable on the broadcast, him kind of fidgeting with his shoulders a couple times. I don't know. What are do you get any kind of sixth sense of what's happening here with Decker and the likelihood he stays healthy?
Well, as far as the quote, it's easy to read it both ways, right? It's easy to say, oh, that looks negative because he's said the word frustrated. And then at the same time, if you want to take a more optimistic point of view, you can say, oh, he's just being cautious and not wanting to make overpromise or something like that, right? Like it's hard with these quotes sometimes, especially with a guy like Decker who gives very measured responses.
Sure.
Right. But yeah, you certainly have, the narrative that Dan is giving. And then, again, if you add in a quote, depending on how you want to look at it, read that quote, like it certainly raises some red flags. The encouraging thing though, is that he practiced 3 days last week. I don't think he's practiced 3 days in a week all year leading up to last week. Right. So like, he's at least trying different things out. Now, now he gets another week off? Is he going to come back and feel a little bit better? Or is this something that's going to be lingering? Because if it's something that's lingering, that could be what's the frustration. Like I might be able to play through it, but it's still bothering me. And so I'm not used to it. It could be a variety of different things, but yeah, you certainly raise some flags. As far as like, do they need to target a backup in season? I don't know. Like they seem to have a lot of confidence in Skipper. They like Manu. He is eventually will come back from IR from what we believe. It's hard to say when.
Yeah.
And I don't know what trade target would be available that's going to give you any assurances, right? Especially one that you're not going to have to pay for, like significantly for, because
you'd be looking for, was it Brian O'Neill? Who's the guy that the Vikings traded for when Darisaw went down?
No, O'Neill's been with them. It's yeah, I know what you're talking
about. That's the
though.
kind of level of trade you'd be looking for, though. Is a guy who's a veteran who has a lot of experiences, but is all things considered not that good.
Right. Right. And that's the hard part, because you're not going to trade for Decker's successor, because you're not going to trade resources and then put that guy on the bench. There you go. But at the same time, you don't want to waste too many resources on a rental.
Yeah.
Right. And so the way I kind of view this team when it comes to the trade deadline is the same way I view it every year. They kind of like who they are. And unless there's some injury that presents itself, I kind of expect them to just wait for guys to get healthy and then keep going, next man up, and then see what other Nick Whitesides there are out there on this roster that we don't know about yet.
I'm with you that kind of feels like where this is headed. I think my concern level is a little bit higher with Decker. He did not sound very confident based on those quotes. He was messing with his shoulder more so than I thought he was even earlier in the season. And so I don't want to speculate on like a re-injury or anything like that. I don't know, but Decker is Decker is also, and I think he's, points it out in this quote, he's an emotional guy, right? And so he was feeling very frustrated in the moment. And so maybe it's better than how he felt. Maybe he felt that way because something bad happened. I don't know.
This is a 10-year veteran who's gotten burned in the media when he was younger, and now he takes his time, and like I said, he's the most measured person in the locker room after the game.
Right. I think they're going to be. I think they'd be okay with having to lean on Dan Skipper for a while. They'd love it to be Jamarco Jones. There was a reason they were enamored with him. Unfortunately, that's no longer an option because was it Achilles with him?
Season. Oh, I don't remember. It was season ending.
It's season ending. Yeah, so he's not eligible to come back anyways. If there was like a Cam Robinson type option out there, I think they would pursue it or at least make a call. Because, I mean, even with Skipper, who's not 100% either, right? He's still dealing with his knee in one way or another. I know it's not technically on the injury report, but he's laboring a little bit out there as well. I think they'd like to have a little bit more support there. I think the fact that they were so enamored with Jamarco Jones kind of tells me everything that they think about Dan Skipper, which is like, yeah, we're fine with that, but we'd like to upgrade that. So if there's an opportunity to upgrade Skipper at the trade deadline, I think they'd look into it, but they're not going to spend a lot of money on it. And they're not looking for a long-term replacement. They are looking for someone who can be an OT3 that's capable of being a spot starter here and there.
Just as a reference point, Cam Robinson is with Cleveland right now. He is, potentially available. Like the Cornelius Lucas is his backup. He was the starter when they were in Detroit. Lions have a history of trading with Cleveland. But in the 3 games he's been with Cleveland, his PFF grades are 45, 38, and 50. So take that for what it's worth.
Yeah. Speaking of trade deadline, Ryan J has a trade deadline question. We are only 2 weeks away from the trade deadline here. It says, with the trade deadline coming, how active or inactive do you expect the Lions to be? Decker was not right this week. We can belabor that point. I've also read about some name players that could further strengthen the defensive front. Jets, Jermaine Johnson, Will McDonald, Dolphins, Matthew Judon, Jalen Phillips, Bradley Chubb, and Saints, Cam Jordan. And there was also, I don't know if you saw it or not, the Diana Rossini report that the Lions had made some calls about some edge players.
Sure.
I know you kind of already answered this question. You don't expect the Lions to be that active, but anyone on that list or any position or player or team that the Lions might look at?
I could tell you who I would eliminate. I would eliminate Will McDonald because he's not a good run defender. I would eliminate Matthew Judon because they had a chance to sign him and they didn't.
Right, and he's barely playing in Miami.
Right.
Miami.
Jalen Phillips got a higher price tag from what I can remember looking at, even though it's only like $6 million or something like that, by the prorated, but it's still, I think, is more. I don't know what Chubb's price tag is. I would assume it's also pretty high, and I also think Chubb would be more expensive. Jermaine Johnson is one that has my attention, but like, what would they be willing to trade him for? Because this is a first-round pick. Like, does he have a 5th-year option picked up? If it is, like, I haven't looked into him, so like, his name catches my attention. I love the idea of adding Cam Jordan, but God, is Cam going to play his whole career with the Saints only to like go to the Lions for the last like 6 games of his career? Like, he seems like a guy who wouldn't even want to do that. Like, so I don't know. Johnson has my attention. I haven't looked up enough about him.
For the record, his 5th-year option has been exercised for next year at $13.4 million.
I mean, that makes him more appealing, but also a little bit more expensive.
Right, and that's guaranteed. No, is it guaranteed? It is guaranteed, right?
Yes. Yeah. But I mean, I they kind of have he's similar to Davenport in a lot of ways, and like if they think Davenport's going to be fine, then or maybe if you don't think Davenport's going to be fine and the price is right, then I don't know. Johnson has my I'm interested in him more as a player. The other ones I've written off previously based on what I've kind of looked into with them.
Yeah, I don't really have other things to add here other than we didn't even report the Diana Rossini report. Like we didn't even
Yeah,
put that on the site because I don't know. I don't
'cause
want to
it's
say I
just
don't
vague.
believe it, but it's vague. It's okay. You're making
And
calls, but
yeah,
I would expect
Brad
my
always
general
makes
manager
calls.
to always make calls about every position
Right.
just to see what's out there. And I don't know, with stuff like I don't know. When we get to trade rumor season, I do feel like the the bar for reporting lowers a little bit because we've already seen Max Crosby, the Cowboys have called for Max Crosby. And now we have 3 or 4 reporters saying like that never happened. And so
Right.
I I just feel like because there's just I get it from my bosses. I'm sure every publication gets it from their bosses. Like everyone's searching trade deadline stuff right now. So put something out there. Put anything out there. And I'm not saying these people are lying, but I'm saying what might be true might not be significant. But it's being made to sound significant because that's what people want to read right now. So the fact that Brad Holmes is calling around, yeah, I believe that's happening. I'm sure it's happening. I'm sure he's called about corners. I'm sure he's called about offensive tackles. I'm sure he's called about, probably not linebackers because they're always 10 deep at linebacker. But I don't want to get your guys' hopes up for something that I don't think is going to happen. They might add a guy, but I just don't feel like it's going to be a significant move. I think the Lions have already made it pretty darn clear they are not interested in spending more than $5 or $6 million on a guy, and they certainly aren't going to do that for a half season rental.
Yeah, there's not a clear Zadarius Smith out there this year. Like there's not
Yeah.
a guy who's in the last year of his contract who fits the scheme perfectly, who has a low
Right.
and would be cheap on the trade. Like the Zadarius thing just made sense so much that
Everyone knew it
every
was gonna
Lions
happen.
reporter was reporting on that it should happen.
Right.
Because all the variables fit. There's not a clear situation where all the variables fit right now. So,
Yep.
we got what 10 days, right? Or a little under 10 days or a little under 2 weeks or whatever. I think it's November 4th or
Tuesday.
something like that.
Yeah, it's a Tuesday.
Yeah.
After the
So,
Vikings game.
yeah. So a little less than 2 weeks. And so the rumors will ramp up. We'll write some pieces speculating, but yeah, I don't
All
think Zadarius is coming out of retirement. You know,
Nope. Only Brandon Graham.
so weird.
Tim Bowers has the next question here from Twitter. Says, through 7 games, can we identify any imprints on the offense or defense that we can point to and say that's Morton or that's Shep's spin on their respective units? Also, would you say it's been an easier transition for Shep than Morton, who has to incorporate the new interior offensive line? I would say the differences are much easier to see on defense and offense. Would you agree with that?
Yes, I completely agree with that.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, which is almost a little bit surprising considering Shepard billed himself as an AG clone.
Yeah, but he's exactly what we wanted. We wanted a new era AG.
Yeah.
And that's what he is.
Yeah, because
And
if you want to talk about this past Bucks game, I just rewatched most of the pass rushing snaps on defense. That game plan looked awfully similar to Baltimore.
Oh,
Awfully
yeah. We were talking about it last week too. We were like, yeah, you're gonna have to rerun Baltimore back.
Yep, spies all over the place, replacement blitzing, dropping guys, and it worked like a mother, and in a way that we never seen. Yes.
Disguise in your coverage, show man, drop the zone.
Yep.
Show zone, drop the man. Like just fooling Baker all over the place.
Yes.
And the same frustrations that Lamar had. And it is a new era version,
Yes.
a more modern version of the defense that AG's been running, that Shep has been watching for 3 years. And look, I got to be careful not to soapbox Shep too much here, but like, holy cow, he has delivered in so many ways
Yeah.
that we were hoping for, that he just looks like the perfect guy
Yeah.
to run the defense right now.
It
And go ahead.
I was just gonna say quickly because I this morning I went on a Jets a Twitter Spaces thing because they're freaking out about AG,
Sure.
and I told them, like, because they're kind of going through this narrative now that I think Lions fans have already gone through, which is like, was AG actually ever good as a defensive coordinator? You look at some of the stats in Detroit and it wasn't very good, and then it started to get better last year. And I had to like stop them a little bit and remind them that the personnel was terrible for his first 3 years. It started to get better and it got good last year, but then
all
last
the
year,
injuries.
then all the injuries happened. And so there is part of this equation where you're like, is this actually what the defense would have looked like last year had Derek Barnes stayed healthy? Because Derek Barnes was an essential part of that game plan last week, and he was an essential part of the game plan against Baltimore. But like, and I think it was Ryan who said it. This was the first time, maybe ever, that they've had, I mean, not quite ever, but like Barnes and Aiden and Aleem all on the field at the same time, and that allows you to do so much more. And so part of me wonders if,
well,
just
the first two
personnel.
games, the first 2 games in 2024, the defense
Was outstanding.
awesome. The first
Right.
5 games, the
Right.
defense was outstanding.
Right.
And you lost Davenport, like in game 2, right? And then you lost Barnes in game 2. So, and the defense was still their strength. It wasn't until you lose Aiden that they start to collapse, and then you lose McNeil, and then that was kind of the inevitable end. But it certainly has, Shep has the pieces, has more pieces than AG did. But you also just look at what the secondary was last week and how these guys who are like third stringers, a lot of them third stringers, are not just surviving the game, but actively making plays and impacting the game in a big way. Like, that just, it screams Shep just has elevated.
Sure.
Just
But
just taking it another step up. And that's, again, this is not a knock on AG, because AG's biggest strength is that he's a culture setter.
Yeah.
And that's what he's going to do with the Jets, is that culture tone that he's going to build is exactly what they need if they have the patience to stick with it. But from a defensive play calling standpoint, Shep looks like a new era version, a modern NFL coordinator. And my goodness, don't steal him from us.
I don't disagree with any of that, but to me, it is also important to point out that we were dogging this guy a week ago for what happened in Kansas City. Yes.
Well, let's quote these wees for a
but
second.
No, but
here,
I mean,
because
but what were we saying? We were saying like
he ran too much zone.
They ran too much zone because he was compensating for a bad secondary. Well, they had the same bad secondary last week, and they figured it out.
Yeah,
and maybe that's just a learning experience.
He didn't run zone.
Yeah,
right. Like, but yeah, Shep's going to have a down game, like where he makes the wrong strategy. Like 7-8 games in, you're going to have a mistake here and there. But like, and what did he do? He took the KC game plan where he went too much zone, and he went back to Baltimore, ran more man, even with the third stringers.
Yep.
And they thrived.
Yes.
Because we talked about this. We talked about this when we were talking about Baker last week. Mm-hmm. We said Baker against man is an average to below average, but against zone, he's the number 1 quarterback in the league against zone.
Yes.
And again, in the week before, we said it against Mahomes. We said that about Mahomes, that Mahomes was the number 2 guy against zone, and we would like to see him run more man. And then when he runs zone, Mahomes has a good game. Now he runs more man, and Baker struggles. And sure, it's awesome adaptability. good adjusting, good play
Yes.
calling, and you're elevating these players to, you're teaching them to play better. One of the best quotes I heard in some of the post-win talking heads that are out there on the networks is that Shep looked at these new guys, the
Yeah.
secondary guys, and he said to them, "This is your opportunity to turn one game into a 10-year career. And if you play the way that you can, this is your opportunity to, if you seize it, you can play in this league for a decade. And that's some motivating stuff, man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and sure enough, now they have this game, and we're like, no, you can't cut Whiteside or Hallett. Like they're too promising. Like the upside's too good. The return is too good. What they did was too good. And I mean, Shep is I will pound the table on him right now. Anything, everything about him is
Yeah.
exactly what we delivered and exactly what we were hoping. So yes, you just can see the differences. The other part of this question was, do you see the
Sure.
differences in Morton? And I don't think you see them as much. I
Yes.
Some of the struggles he has led to some of the play calling. I think like Shep, he's going to have some down games, but I think they tried to, with offense, they're not trying to make it different, right? They're trying to keep doing what they've been doing. And the production, like it or not, they're still one of the highest scoring offenses in the league. And yes, they've had a couple of weeks where they haven't been as elite as we've grown accustomed to, and the running game isn't as elite as we've grown accustomed to.
Yep.
The offense will find its groove and the offense will put up points. They're just, the talent is just too good on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah. And I don't. Part of me is I'm just not as knowledgeable on offensive schemes and blocking schemes and things like that to recognize anything that looks drastically different. But again, you have to remind yourself that when it comes to things like the run game, that's not even really that much of John Morton's purview. Like that is very much Hank Fraley's business.
I'm going to be honest, and the struggles there have just been execution. I don't
That's
think
what
it's
it,
been game
yes.
plan.
I agree.
Yep.
I agree 100%. And if you want to talk some of the past game struggles, which there have been, but it's actually, I don't think as bad as some people are making it out to be. Part of it is just like Jamo's
Tough
not getting his
defenses.
numbers. Some of it is tough defenses. But in terms of efficiency, they're actually a better passing team than they are running the ball right now. So I'm not that concerned about that. But like if you want to talk play calling or not being able to scheme up Jamo open more, those are maybe valid concerns, but too small of a sample size right now for me to be overly concerned. Because again, I just don't think they're doing that much schematically different. All right. Last question. Last question. We've gone too long. Eric M. Sorry.
Sorry, no, that's my fault.
We're going to. Dan Campbell is a magician. That's your answer. Oaxaca Lions fan will have the final question here. It says, let's do a bye-week evaluation of Brad Holmes for the preseason and season, draft, free agency, the depth. What did he do well? What could he have done better? And perhaps using the benefit of hindsight.
All right. So where do you want to start?
Let's start with the draft.
Okay. You needed to get more experience and youth in the trenches. You did it. They are your first two picks are doing well right now, and they're going to look even better in the future, in my opinion. They're both starters. They're both going to be starters for their entire careers here, in my opinion. Um, we'll see what the future holds on where they end up playing the majority of their snaps. Like, do you move Tate or something like that down the center? And that's going to be a debate for the offseason.
Sure.
But you invested in an area in which your team is built upon with your first two picks, and you nailed it. Um, the story has not been fully written on Tesla. Um, Slow incorporation, building his way up. Usually, the second half of the season is when a guy like a skill player that's
Yep.
drafted like around where Tesla. That's usually where you see, was he worth it? What's his future? And I have high hopes for that. They're going to get him more involved, in my opinion or my belief, And so I don't think the story's written quite there yet.
The worst thing that could have happened for him is what happened. Like these
Oh,
highlight
it's
reel
too
catches
magical. Yeah.
in the first 2-3 weeks here, everyone's expectations rose a ton. And we said from the get-go, he's a guy that you have to be patient with. Not only because he was drafted in the third round, but because he's behind good players. He's behind a ton of weapons, and he's doing stuff that he didn't do in college. He's playing on the outside. He's dealing with press coverage. And so y'all know I wasn't the biggest fan of that pick, but I'm not ready to say it was a bad one. I think the mistake maybe, and even calling it a mistake is probably too much at this point, was trading away. I can't even remember his name right now. Was trading away the veteran receiver.
Oh, Tim Patrick.
I'd like to have Tim Patrick right now.
The weird thing is I actually think he'd be used at the same rate. Like he would be option 4 and probably would go weeks without getting looks because
I mean, yes, but he'd be
based
playing
on
more
how
than
training
he'd be
camp-
playing more than Khalif.
I don't know about that because remember training camp?
It was a bad training camp. It was a bad training camp.
But Khalif was consistently
That's
ahead
true.
of him.
It's true.
And and Khalif is consistently ahead of Tesla as well. And that's I wonder if that's just the way it was. Now, the back half, day 3 draft picks, they're mostly injured. Dan Jackson's on IR. Miles Frazier hasn't seen the field yet. Hassanin is going to be coming back. And your only other guy is Lovett, right? Yeah. And he's, another
Hanging
receiver around. Who's even further down, contributing on special teams. He's helped kick in when Khalif was injured a little bit. And so this is another project development. That's fine. That's what your day 3 picks really should be on a good team. So look, for the draft, you're building your foundation. You're helping reestablish your foundation with your first 2 picks. And then the story's not written. I think it's exactly what they wanted when they went in. And we talked about this ahead of the draft, that they weren't probably going to have a sexy draft. Like they were going to have guys, a lot of their picks weren't going to be able to contribute a whole lot because of the depth of the roster. And they got good value, in my opinion, on their first 2. And they found guys that are going to be starters long-term. And I think Tesla is going to be, he'll be a wide receiver 3. You got to be happy with the draft, in my opinion.
Yeah. Free agency, actually, I think looks almost even better. You get DJ Reed, 3 years, 48. You get Roy Lopez, 1 year, 3.5. Grant Stewart, 1 year, 1.7. Rock Ya-Sin, I don't even remember what the contract details were there. Avante Maddox. You also re-signed a couple of key pieces. Marcus Davenport, Al-Qadim Muhammad. My internet connection is unstable. Can you hear me?
Rock's got Rock was $1 million. Avante was 1.2. So like the veteran money that you spent on those free agents, those second free agents in the secondary, pretty easy. And I do think it was a better free agency this year than in the past because of those. Look at guys like Mollett right now.
Yeah. There are some misses along the way. Levi was an unfortunate 1 year, $4 million deal that never really amounted to much. You trade away Tim Patrick, but
you
don't lose it.
It couldn't be helped though with Levi though, right?
Yeah.
So, overall though, I look, you really hit the ball well with the DJ Reed signing, in my opinion. And you can tell that Brad was excited about the ability to get him based on the fact that he gave him a multi-year deal. And so far, I think Reed has played out very well. And when he's able to return, I think you're going to see the benefits of him being, the guy that they expected him to be when they signed him in free agency. So again, I think it was a better free agency period than what we've seen in the previous few seasons.
Yeah, and the last thing I guess I'll touch on here is maybe looking this more by position than moves that they made. So after the roster cuts and additions, I think there were maybe 2 big area of concerns. One was edge rusher, because it's always a concern. And I think one was maybe
Sure.
the safety depth. You immediately help out the safety depth that we didn't really understand at the time with Thomas Harper, right? Thomas Harper looks like a really smart addition right there at the beginning of the season. And then what can you say about the edges? That it seems like it's worked out just fine. They obviously got way more than they expected, or maybe than we expected at Al-Qadim Muhammad. You get good play out of Tyler Lacey in terms of setting the edge. You get a little bit out of Marcus Davenport before he goes on iron. Hopefully we'll get a little bit when he comes back. But I think they've answered a lot of the questions that we had about their depth in a lot of positions. I guess the only one that remains is offensive line depth. That is the one that remains a pretty significant concern, I would say. They've been lucky with their health on the interior. They haven't been as lucky on the edge with Decker and losing Jamarco Jones and losing Giovanni Manu. But that's also the toughest one to find depth at. To find offensive line depth, I think the Lions have been a little bit lucky that Graham was basically a reserve his first year back here, that they had Kevin Zeitler kind of fall into their lap, that Mahogany was a reserve last year. This year it hasn't been as good, as lucky. You lose some guys to injury, including one of your draft picks, and it's hard to put blame anywhere there.
Yeah, it's the same positions that we've been looking at that we think like are potential problem areas are the ones that have been consistently just problem areas for a while now. But when you look at the overall depth of the team, I think it's improved, because what you're seeing is guys that were firmly in to reserve roles in the past are feeling competition. Craig Reynolds was running back 3, for the last several years.
Yeah.
Now it's looking like Vaki was poised to jump him, and Sailors has been pushing him for time as well.
Yeah.
It kind of carries over, like you said. Thomas Harper has elevated his position, and it's allowed him to maybe jump Daniel Thomas. And Daniel Thomas was brought in because Lauren Strickland, they weren't confident that he could step in and get ready to play immediately. So it's just been little additions and little upgrades and bringing guys in that can challenge reserves who had kind of established themselves. And that, from an overall perspective, I believe has made this team even deeper. And that's pretty hard to do. It's little things, little tweaks,
Yep.
and then it's just deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And that's the type of thing that ends up helping you overcome injuries and get through a season and deep into the season, battling that attrition.
All right. That is going to do it for this week's midweek mailbag. If you're watching us live or on replay on YouTube and Twitch, we're going to probably fire up a new stream and do some film breakdown of the Lions Buccaneers game. So you can stick around for that. If you're listening to us on the podcast, you can jump over to YouTube and Twitch and catch that in a separate stream. But either way, we appreciate your patronage. Feel free to leave comments or reviews wherever you're listening and or watching us from. We always appreciate the feedback. Prefer it to be nice feedback, but doesn't always have to be constructive. Just keep it constructive, even if it's not positive.
I like positive feedback.
Yeah,
make sure if you talk about me, it's all positive.
There you go. No one's ever said anything bad about you, have they?
Oh yeah, now and then. They're out there.
They're out there. But either way, thank you all for listening. Thank you all for hanging with us throughout a really strong start to the season, and we look forward to a good finish out of the bye and a good Movember ahead. But until next time, I'm Jeremy. That's Erik. It's Chaos. Be kind.
Recording stopped.
I'm getting nervous. Dropping some frames, getting some unstable connections. This is about the time it happened last time, and we weren't able to do a film breakdown.
Yeah. Well, it knows. It's like, hey, guys, listen.
We don't
No,
want you guys to
no
get a
film
copyright
breakdowns for
strike.
you guys.
Okay. Sorry. That threw me a loop a little bit when the unstable connection showed up, and then some people on YouTube were like, "Your stream's stuttering and glitchy now." I'm like, "Ugh." One of these days, I'm going to move and I'm going to stick my computer right into the internet and not do Wi-Fi, but unable to do it right now. According to Jeremy Fowler, Evan Neal from New York could be on the trading block. He's on the final year of his deal, and his fifth-year option was not picked up. Any interest in him is tackle depth. I don't know. I don't know how he's been doing. They're really thinking about getting rid. Like, I thought, why would New York think that?
They're in the mix, right?
I mean, they're only, what, are they 2-5? 3-4? I think they're 2-5.
Oh, I'm not sure.
But, has he not been playing? He hasn't been playing.
Oh, really?
He has 0 starts this year. Is he injured? What's happening? What's with Evan Neal?
That's a bit of a surprise. Yeah, I know.
He's only played 7 games in 2023, 7 starts in 2024. Well, I'm not sure what I feel about trading for a tackle that hasn't started, and it didn't have his 5th-year option picked up. But he was the 7th overall pick. What was that contract
he was
look
good.
like?
He was good at Bama.
Not that expensive. I don't know.
Boy,
I'd have to go back and look how he's played when he's played, but certainly not promising.
He must be injured a lot, right? No? Yes?
I don't know. I don't know if his lack of playing is injury related or play related. Pipper asked a question that apparently was something addressed on the broadcast that I didn't see, but I've seen multiple people bring it up now. Is that the lines are 0 for 21 on 3rd and 10 or more? Is it the play calling, or as in they're relying too heavily on going for it on 4th down?
3rd and 21 on...
No.
I'm sorry. 0 for 21 on 3rd and 10 or longer?
Correct.
How do you find that stat?
ESPN showed it on the broadcast.
Huh.
Yeah. That might be an NFL Pro thing, too. Or their definition might be a little different of 3rd and long, but I think you can set up NFL Pro to show 3rd and long. Maybe not conversion rate, though. I don't know. Either way, I mean, it's certainly not the strength of this team, right? Downfield passing is not what they do. Jared Goff has one of the lowest ADOTs in the league right now, and it's been that way for a few years. So, I mean, part of the reason they like to rely on the run game is so that they can stay out of 3rd and longs, 3rd and 10s. They pick up 4 or 5 yards on 1st and 2nd down. You're in a 3rd and medium, 3rd and manageable, and that's where they like to live. So I think part of it is like they don't have a lot of, like, I think this also falls into the conversation of like, why don't the Lions ever get pass interference calls in their favor? Because they don't have like the possession receiver type. Like that's who they hope Isaac Tisslaw becomes, right? Is this big bodied guy who you can throw contested catches, throw contested balls to, maybe draw some of those pass interferences, and be a 3rd and long threat. But I think they just don't have a good 3rd and long threat.
LJ brings up the point that I was wondering, and why I was looking at where you'd find that stat is, what's the league average on 3rd and 10? Like,
I bet it's higher than 0.
Well, I would imagine it's higher than 0, but how much? Like, is it only like 10% or something? Like, that's what I would be curious to find out.
Let me see if I can find some of this information. What if I did StatHead? Yeah, my internet is going slow right now. I'm not excited about this.
Well, look, when we stop this stream and start the next one up, just do a full computer reboot.
That's not a bad idea. Gameplay Finder. 2025 play filter. Yards to go, 10 or 99. 10 to 99. Down. Third down. Okay. Get results. Will this have... Okay, they will have... So the Lions are indeed at 0%. 0 of 20, it says. This doesn't say 21, but whatever.
Liars at ESPN.
The middle of the pack teams are around 21%.
Oh, wow. That's higher than I thought.
I'll show this on screen so you guys can see. This is using StatHead, which is awesome, by the way. San Francisco leads the league with a 35% conversion rate. Lions, again, all the way down here. The only team that has not converted a 3rd and 10 plus. And they've had 20 opportunities. So, I mean, it's not great.
Yeah, but I do wonder, like, what they, what was suggested was, is it they don't mind getting into trying to get in 4th and short type of thing.
This is also not great, is that they give up the 4th highest percentage on 3rd and longs. 30% conversion rate for the opposing team. But some of them might just be playing a little prevent. They might be able to show me every play. Oh, good. My internet connection's still unstable. Oh, I'm looking for Detroit when it's Lions, you dummy. Why? It only shows like 4. 4. That's like 10. I don't know. What's your answer? Why did Lions suck at 3rd and long?
Who's the most successful? You said San Fran?
San Fran.
Oh, I don't know.
O-line plays
I don't have
part
a
of
good
it.
answer.
I know that we a lot of times will be in prevent. Yeah. That happened a couple times on Monday where Lions defense was in like a 3rd and 18 and they gave up like 16. That was frustrating to me. Because then they went for it and converted a couple times, so not every time. All right, here we go with the penalties again. Penalty controversies, penalty conspiracies. Why are people saying Goff played bad just because he had yak? Like, he is supposed to throw to a guy who gets... No. I mean, there's a lot of reasons to argue. There are a lot of reasons to argue why Goff had a bad day. The fact that most of his yards were via yak is not one of them. That's the Lions' offense.
Bucks were 28th against yak, I believe it was, if I'm not mistaken. 28th or 30th or something like that against giving up yak. That was game plan.
Yeah.
Like, the Lions knew that was a weakness. I wrote about it
short
too.
All season. That's what they do.
Yeah.
The reason he was bad was he looked uncomfortable in the pocket. He was inaccurate on some deep shots.
But this defense specifically is vulnerable to yak because they run their safeties deep to take Jamo away,
right?
And then they're willing to give up that underneath stuff because more often than not they bend but don't break. So they're willing to give you the short pass with the yak in the hopes that you make a mistake. And Goff made, because they're blitz, they count on their blitz to get home, and so they're like, hey, we'll let you make the short passes. If you can get a pass off, it's going to be a short pass, and then we're going to let you have that yak, but because we don't want to get beat, on the explosive plays, and that normally is a recipe for success. Problem was, the Lions had like 8 explosive plays or something like that, and that's a lot more than what the Bucs typically give up. So that's a big reason why the Lions had control.
All right, I don't know what that link is. Laser mouse. Waterproof what? Resistant
Amazon,
Ethernet?
so
It's not possible for me to be like it's like in a different part of this house. I'm not going to go through the trouble of that, but we are going to end stream there. Let's take like a half-hour break because I also need to download the audio of the podcast, and I feel like that's going to continue to slog my internet until. Can you take 30 and do like 1 to 1:30?
Mm-hmm.
Are you okay with that?
Sure. I can get a 30-minute nap in, I guess.
Yeah, that's what we're gonna do. So we'll take a 30-minute break, reconvene around 1 o'clock to do some film breakdown stuff. Give my internet a rest if that's a thing. I don't think it is, but we're gonna see if it works.
Give my robot a rest.
Yeah, that's right. And we'll break down some Nick Whiteside, some Jahmyr Gibbs, and there was a third thing that I don't remember. Jamo?
I just wanted those 2 touchdowns with Gibbs. That's all I really cared about.
All right. Well,
it's really more of an offensive line thing anyways, but
sure. All right, we'll be back in a half hour. Everybody go get some rest. Go take your cat naps, grab something to eat, let your dog out. We'll see you here in a little bit.